I'm a Taylor Swift
But
fan.
you
I
have to do
I
it the glowing face you did as you were leaving to another Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Allen Wright, and I'm happy to have you join me for another episode of Dialogue with Darwin, a series where we dive deep into conversations with industry leaders to understand the evolution of HR and take a global from the unique perspective. Today, we're excited to have Ioana from Chief People Officer at Efficacy. Efficacy is a global research organization, and Ioana has 20 years of global HR experience. Throughout her career, she's been an advocate of impactful HR strategies that align business objectives and strong people first culture. Currently, she's leading the people function at Efficacy. Awana is supporting company growth by building up the people and culture ecosystems through performance management, leadership development, recruitment, and employee experience. Beyond her leadership in HR, Awana is a process driven mind and helps and keeps simplicity at the core of her decision. She is Six Sigma Green Belt certified and recently graduated from the Wharton CHRO program and is excited to have you here with us to teach some of your learnings and experiences. Welcome to Dialogue with Darwin, Awana. Pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And you also one of the first people I ever met when I started after Darwin Box. So great to see you again here today.
Absolutely. It's great to reconnect. I do remember our first meeting, so it's great to catch up again.
Absolutely. Well, you had a very dynamic and rich career in HR. So I'd like to start hearing a little bit about you, some of the pivotal experience that not only you've earned, but your leadership as the
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Look, I've really been blessed with a wonderful career. It's been dynamic, it's been diverse, it spans multiple geographies, industries, cultures. I think every transition I made was a very deliberate step forward. It was part of my broader plan, broader life plan and strategy. Every step, every career step I took was very planned, very deliberate. It was deliberate in the sense of I purposefully chose a job that was outside of my comfort zone, whether it was a new geography or a new job I hadn't done before, or just anything that would broaden my perspective. So that has really helped. And one of the things that I remember very dearly is my experience in stepping into a leadership role in the Latin America region. Not only did I have to navigate cultural differences, I also had to learn how to lead with empathy, adapt in a complex, very fast-moving environment. We were changing a lot in the business, so I was coming into something and I was supposed to change it to something new without knowing what it was. Just it was amazing. I look back now, it was an amazing learning experience. In the moment, it didn't feel like that. But it really tested my resilience. And I think to me, it reinforced the importance of cultural intelligence. I know we talked about emotional intelligence, but I think this cultural intelligence is so apt and so such a needed skill for us nowadays. So yeah, it's been quite a ride.
love hearing you say that transformative experience and actually navigating the cultural differences. Sometimes you get so tunnel visioned on the domestic U.S. kind of like lifestyle that you kind of forget what all is going around the world at the same time. So, and to me, that's really what life is all about. So, what other milestones have really jumped out to you? You recently made a career move, I believe, from a very long tenure. Can we talk about that?
Yes. That was you can imagine, right? 17 years, it's a lifetime. I've spent 17 years with my previous employer. It didn't feel like 17 years because, I've traveled the world, I've moved jobs, I got to be a beginner so many times. It was exciting, it was dynamic, and I felt like I really built a family. So stepping out and having that courage to go into a o- completely unknown, right?
Right.
Different industry, different environment, different people that I get to work with, right? Founders, consultants, etc. That was another milestone that I think helped me really understand what is strategy and drive meaningful
Yeah.
change. and really that's been incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah, it really helps kind of, I guess, hewn you into, a different leader and a different person. I obviously just made the recent change over to Darwin Box after over 11, almost 12 years at a previous organization. So it's fun to kind of like reset your brain, reset kind of, relearn, rediscover how you actually even work, right? And so, but you mentioned about how it changed your leadership, what your leadership styles are, and how you're applying that to the role at Yo.
Well, yeah, I've had a long time to refine my leadership style and really understand what I stand for and how I want to lead my life and my teams. I think it comes down to three main pillars for me. The first one, I think it's empowerment. I'm a big believer that I work for my team as much as they work for me. I have a duty to empower them and to make sure that they have what they need to do their best at work every day. And when people are empowered, they tend to take better decisions and they tend to become more motivated and engaged and see the value of the work they do. So empowerment is so critical to me, and it's probably one of the quintessential ways I see leadership. Deriving from empowerment, I think it's accountability. Again, big believer in the fact that you have to stand by your actions and you have to understand the consequences of any decision you take. Leadership isn't just about vision. It's not just, setting up and saying the big words. It's about enabling execution and holding myself and my teams accountable for the real impact that we'll end up delivering.
Mhm.
And lastly, I'll say it's diversity. I think I've touched upon it earlier. Just through the way my career has evolved, I have learned personally what is the value that diversity brings into a team, into a business, into how you do work. Diversity brings innovation, it brings stronger business outcomes. Sometimes it brings conflict. Diversity makes people uncomfortable. And from that discomfort, I think I've seen the best ideas come across and the most creative solutions to business problems. So yeah, if I have to summarize, I think it's empowerment, accountability, and diversity.
That's awesome. So that was quite the trifecta of leadership styles, and I'm sure over your entire career you've used quite a few different forms of technology to help run your organization. I know I've been in the space a little over 15 years now, and the stuff that we can accomplish now on these technologies wasn't even a thought 15 plus years ago. How have you not only developed with HR technology, but also made sure that the technology didn't remove that human element that you just mentioned was so important to, running your organization and being a leader as a CPO?
Yeah, well, technology, I guess, especially in the HR industry, and not only, it's probably the most talked about subject and the biggest challenge that companies have in, how to embed that and how to ensure that they don't lose touch with reality. In my mind, the human touch remains essential in managing people. You really, there is no management if there is no human. The key, I think, is using technology to enhance, not replace human interactions. The biggest challenge, just diving deeper into this, is going to, in my mind, be balancing automation that the technology brings and the personalization of the employee experience. We talk about employee experience, a lot, and I've come to realize it's such a unique element of each person's life at work. There's no universal solution, no matter how much technology and how many tools and platforms you'll end up implementing. Nothing will have the same effect on everyone. So I think what I would say is I want to start using AI and the way AI would work to tailor some of these experiences and help on top of technology understand how can AI help tailor some of these experiences. In fact, you'll find this interesting. We've just started experimenting at Efficacy with an AI tool that provides hyper personalized experiences, and we're just in the initial stages now. But I'm super excited to see how this will help our employee journey. But with all that said, I think leadership conversations, learning, role modeling, personal connections will continue to remain irreplaceable.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Now, you did touch on the most used acronym in all of tech, AI. Let's dive a little further into that. How do you personally look at AI? How are you using it on a day to day? You mentioned the hyper personalization. How is that also applying to your role as not only a person but also a CPO?
Yes, AI is the, is the word of the day, or the century, rather, the decade. I think a common misconception is that AI is here to take over, and we've been fed this narrative of AI is going to take your job, like the media and reporting and everything was around how AI is here for your job. In reality, I see AI as an enabler, not a replacement. And I think, the market is coming to that realization as well. With AI, obviously, it has a lot of data, it processes data, but what it doesn't have is the competency of the human. So I always say AI brings the skill, while the human brings the competency, human judgment, emotional intelligence, critical thinking. These are things that I think AI is attempting to emulate, but I think humans will continue to to have the upper hand when it comes to critical thinking and judgment. So I see AI as a co-pilot. It can guide us to make decisions, but decision making stays with us. And again, as I said, this entire narrative of automation or technology or AI versus human. But I think instead, if we switch that narrative to automation, technology, and human interaction and human harmonization, I think we have a great opportunity to find the best solutions for our most pressing people and business problems in the industry.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think you nailed it. As AI is the co-pilot that really guides you, and the human element. They started saying how much we've lost a human element, even from the digitization of work on a daily basis. I mean, you get a different vibe from a person when you're in person with them versus over a podcast or a video. Like,
Yeah, wow.
I think you nailed it with that human touch inside of the space. So, as AI has evolved, as tech's evolved, the workspace has evolved, right? So we've had this completely remote world all the way to everybody returning to work, but maybe something in the middle and the sense of the hybrid. And then at the same time, while all of that's happening, one of the biggest things that HR departments do is manage performance and make sure people are doing their job and how to do these actual performance management and keep the employees involved and keep them building up their skills and so forth. So how have you applied that? How have you stayed relevant and how have you kept that like impactful in not only current roles but previous roles?
This is such a relevant topic for me as we're in the middle of our performance management cycle on Darwin Box. So, so very exciting and relevant. This the market dynamics are changing so fast. You've mentioned hybrid, you've mentioned remote, you've mentioned back to office. Efficacy from that perspective is, again, I think a privileged organization because we are a remote first organization. What that means is we started off as remote 20 years ago, and our founder had this brilliant idea of setting up Efficacy as a remote company. And I think we're still into that mindset. We continue to be remote, but of course, performance management is a challenge, right? Because a lot of the performance is happens at work in the office under the eyes of your peers, your managers, etc. I think one of the biggest shifts of mindset when we look at performance is we have to measure outcomes and not presence. I think this is what we continue to see as a main struggle. How do you balance out presence versus outcomes? In a remote world, productivity isn't about the time that you spend sitting at your desk. It's about impact. And I talk about impact to my teams all the time. I talk about impact to my business leaders. I think presence and effort, of course, it's required to have results, but impact is what you should be going after, choosing where to spend your time to get that impact maximized. So that means I would say rethinking performance metrics to focus on results, on accountability. I talked about it earlier, on value creation rather than just visibility. Um, I think at the same time, I was thinking about feedback and how we used to do it in the good old days when I used to do the bell curve and the nine blocker and all the good stuff. I think you would get feedback at a maximum twice a year or once a year if you were lucky. I think that has to change now. It has to become more agile. It has to become more real life. I still believe in annual reviews. I'm a big believer of performance management as a catalyst of culture, of diversity, of equity.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the big things in HR that helps drive both impact as well as culture. But I think annual reviews have a place in the entire cycle. And instead of focusing on performance management just within that small period of time when we are really doing calibrations and annual reviews, etc., we we focus on it as a small piece of a bigger puzzle, which is to say that puzzle is the impact. How do you create it? How do you manage it? How does performance management fit into it? And annual feedback is one piece, but regular feedback, agile feedback, checking in, having meaningful coaching moments is what I would say is the shift that we're trying to get to. I have a lot to say about performance management, as you can
You
see.
seem very passionate about performance
I
reviews.
am. I am. This is,
And
Niknar, performance management is my favorite topic or area of impact. So you've asked, now you have to
yeah,
listen.
yeah. Sounds like we could
Mhm.
time just for performance management. No, no, I completely agree with you on so many different aspects of it, and it's changed dramatically. People work differently, right? You may be sitting at a desk and accomplishing nothing, or you may be on a walk clearing your brain and come back and able to knock something out super fast because you've got clear line of sight of how to accomplish the goal or project that sets before you. So it's rapidly changing. It's changed so much. I've seen it in my world from the "What have you done for me lately?" to that continuous feedback. So, I think it's gonna continue to massively shift and massively change from where it was, and maybe manual performance reviews will never go away.
They will go away with the help of Darwin bots. But I'd say one more thing on performance. I'd say one misconception. Well, it's not really a misconception. It's probably the traditional way of looking at performance management is, you're getting people evaluated.
Mhm.
But instead, what I think performance management is all about is about helping people grow, where feedback is a normal, ongoing conversation, where employees hear when something they've done something great, also when they've done something less than what was expected. I've been so fortunate in my career. I've had multiple managers, but most of them have been incredible coaches and incredible believers in feedback giving and in performance management, and that has helped me immensely through my journey. But again, by shifting focus to outcomes, I think continuous feedback development, we can make performance management a tool for engagement and growth rather than a tool of evaluation and giving you a mark and forgetting about it.
No, no, those are great points. I do wanna shift the subject a little bit because it does have to do with performance, right? And it does have to do with keeping the employees engaged, and it's a very hot topic right now, DE&I, right? You mentioned this is one of your key leadership pillars, and we also know that employee engagement keeps a company running, right? It keeps a thriving workplace. A toxic work environment creates toxic work. We all know that. I think that's kinda 101 at this point in time. What are some of the strategies that you found to be very effective in fostering a culture of collaboration, continuous learning, career growth, and so forth at Efficacy or throughout your career?
Yeah, another great question and a very relevant topic for us. Collaboration and relationship building is one of our core values at Efficacy. So obviously we focus a lot on that. I think it starts with engagement, it starts with recognition, it starts with growth, and it starts with inclusion to the end of building a really strong, tightly knit culture. As I mentioned earlier about performance management, I think performance management and recognition are both huge drivers of culture and huge drivers of equity also internally. These are tools that you can use to level set, to understand impact. These are tools that like I said earlier, measure impact and helps people stay motivated when they see that their work is recognized and they see the impact of their work. And in an industry like ours, that is so important. It's an industry where you have to really be passionate about helping people. We, as an industry, we work in big pharma, biotech, medical device manufacturers. We help them in through their clinical trial period. So there's a lot of pride and there's a lot of meaning in the work we do.
Sure.
What I'll also mention is on diversity, I've hinted to it earlier. I think it's about being intentional and creating those spaces, being curious, asking the right questions, having open conversations about what you know and what you don't know, creating those forums and those mentorship and leadership check ins and opportunities to talk to a variety of people and understand the impact that they can bring to the business. I feel diversity, well, the word is, used for so many things, but I think diversity comes from more than just hiring diverse talent. It is about how you set up an ecosystem for a diverse talent to thrive. And, when I think about diversity, for example, just a different perspective is when I joined Efficacy, this was completely diverse for me in the sense that I had never worked with an entrepreneur, and their vision and their thinking and their leadership was completely different from what I had experienced. Consultants and so many, really, really passionate intellectual people who are coming in to make a difference. Corporate leaders, all sorts of people coming from different backgrounds that I think brings so many fresh perspectives, and they end up driving the real results in the business.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, it's so far beyond what the stigma is right now of diversity. It is diverse backgrounds, it's diverse experiences, it's the entire picture, right? When you look at it. So I think that's a great point. This has been absolutely great today. I do have a couple of final questions. One of the final is, what's one piece of advice you would give HR leaders who are looking to dive into meaningful, lasting change inside of their organization?
Thank you for that opportunity. I usually don't like to necessarily give advice, but I give my perspective on on what's made me, or what I think has made me reach the success I feel I'm having right now. I'd say if you want to drive real change in your organization, you need to start with one simple question. And that question is, what is the problem I'm trying to solve for the business? What I mean by that is, HR typically gets associated with policies and programs and, the corporate police who's going to go after you if you're doing something wrong. But meaningful work happens when you're solving real business problems, and HR can really solve meaningful business problems, whether it is improving retention, driving performance, shaping cultures. All of these initiatives have an impact in the business and have an impact that you can actually quantify and prove to the business. So I'd say the first question is, whatever you want to do something, whatever you want to change something, whatever you want to implement or start a new project or big initiative, ask yourself, what problem is this solving for the business? If the answer is not relevant, it's not evident, then it may not matter if you do it or not. Then why do you do it? So start with a business, start with what is the problem you're trying to solve for the business. This is how you become someone who is a strategic enabler and someone who adds value to business results.
I think that's a great point. It's like, is the problem big enough to solve, or is it even worth solving? I think that's great. So rapid fire questions. So I hope you're
Whoa.
close. If HR had a theme song, what would yours be?
So I think you know this about me from the past. I remember we talked about it. So I'm a Taylor Swift
But
fan.
you
I
had to do
I
it with the glowing face you did as you were leaving to another Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah. I did attend two of the Eras Tour concerts. So I'll choose something from her repertoire. And I'm thinking of Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. That's the name of the song. It's a fun song if you listen to it. But I think the symbolism that I draw from it is that if I think about it from an HR perspective, I think it holds around HR as a force of change and as a team that can shake up norms, cultures, call out toxic behaviors, And I think that that song is about that, of course, from different perspectives. Well, there's also the pant up who's afraid of little old me. People are always afraid that, oh, if HR is in the meeting, something something must be wrong. So, oh no, I think that's a fun song to listen and to draw parallels in.
I
Yeah.
can't Taylor Swift. I'm shocked. She's such an unknown artist these days.
Yeah.
So another question, what's the most unusual and unexpected HR challenge you've ever faced? And being in the world of HR, I know you've got plenty.
I have R-rated stories, so I'm not
You
gonna share
you
them. So instead, I'm gonna share one of the most difficult things I did in my career. I think at the time it certainly felt like it. This was about 10 to 12 years ago when I led my first large scale HR transformation project. I had no idea what was happening. So I had to challenge my own understanding of HR, but also come up, like get over it and come up with actual solutions that would fit the new business model we were trying to implement. So I was in this position where I had to change things in my own department. So I felt that anxiety and that fear of change as a department owner. But then I was a project owner, so I had to forget all about that and kind of be the hero of the project and convince others that this was a good thing to do. This was my first time running a big transformation project, and it was at the time it was a grueling experience. But I think it taught me a lot on how to approach transformation and how to approach these big projects. And I mean, I had an easier time running other transformations in the future, but this was really it stuck with me.
Is that where the question, "What problem am I solving for the business?" comes from? Because I think that
Absolutely.
of the entire time during a transformation is what
Absolutely.
alright, another one. If you could swap jobs with anyone, of course, besides me, inside or outside of HR, who would it be and why?
So I'm a fan of crime novels and TV series. And since I was a kid, I mean, I watched all the good detective movies. I particularly loved Hercule Poirot as a detective, and I would switch places with him anytime. But really, any police detective job would be amazing for me. I would love to be a crime investigation detective.
So we've hit Taylor Swift, we've hit crime, we've gotta run some fashion in here somewhere, and then we'll have that as well. So what's one workplace trend you secretly love or secretly can't stand?
All this hustle culture, I've seen a lot of articles and it's all over, you know, social media. There's people trying to do everything, right? Wake up at 5 a.m., do yoga, go to the gym, have a perfect body, have a perfect routine. All of this, I think it's so dangerous because it's putting such high expectations for yourself and for the others around you, and pushing yourself to the limit is never um, something I would advise anyone to do. In my view, I think you have to be instinctive. You have to listen to your body, and you have to do you.
Hmm.
So I would say I really disagree with the with that culture of hustling and pushing yourself to that very limit.
That's interesting because I always look at it as so many people try to look busy all the time, and it
Bueno.
ties into that hustle culture. So if you could describe your style of leadership using a movie or a book title, what would it be?
Uh-huh. You got me here. I will I will choose a movie from the fashion industry or related to the fashion
Trifecta.
industry. Then we've reached the second trifecta. Um, I love the Devil Wears Prada, the movie. I just
A
loved
great movie.
every hour of that movie. I love Meryl Streep because she's so versatile and she can do anything she sets her mind to. And I love her as an actor. But The Devil Wears Prada, I think I love fashion. I love how dynamic the industry is and how adaptable you have to be to remain at the top of your game. How much outside factors and influence you have to withstand to, you know, keep your ground and keep your position in the industry. So I think that, you know, from a leadership perspective, working in fashion is just probably unparalleled in terms of challenge and building character.
Well, I do have a scene from that movie. I'm not gonna go into details about it, but it is when Meryl Streep looks at her and is like, "You don't even know the clothes that you're wearing." And I was like, Got her. That off the shelf or whatever she says. Well, this has been absolutely great. I hope you had fun because I had a blast doing this with you. Absolutely great points, and I hope everybody that listens to this or watches this is able to take some really good key points home. And so, would love to do it again with you. Maybe we'll dive further into performance reviews and how you manage that. But greatly appreciate the time today, and look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for a great conversation. I did absolutely enjoy it.